This game had the potential to be a fascinating matchup before the players even reached the board. As white, Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, and as black, Jorden Van Foreest, one of Magnus Carlsen's seconds during Magnus's recent successful defense of his world champion title, so there should be intimate knowledge of the other's opening repertoire and playing style. Additionally, Magnus is obviously the strongest player in the tournament, and Jorden is one of the weakest, and in such strong tournaments, often the stronger players push that little bit harder against the players who are perceived as the weakest as an opportunity to score their full points, especially as white. As in this game. The game started calmly enough, a neo-Grunfeld defence. A couple of knights were swapped off. Jorden would love to swap his light-squared bishop for the fianchettoed one on g2, but Magnus avoids this, and it is instead swapped off for a knight. The game started heating up when black decides to go for an aggressive kingside expansion. Magnus gives up his bishop for the advanced knight trying to open the centre. But suddenly the game got a lot more interesting, with Jorden choosing instead to sacrifice his g-pawn in front of his king to keep the centre closed, and open avenues of attack for his heavy pieces. Van Foreest continues his aggressive play, advancing his h-pawn with tempo on Carlsen's queen, who a couple of moves later tries to force the issues and open the queen side with b4, b5, rook to c1. Meanwhile, the Harry pawn continues his march, preparing to sink his teeth into Magnus's king's defence. Jorden now swings his rook to the defence of c6, just in time holding it together, and the rook is positioned very nicely to multitask in defensive and aggressive roles. White tries to keep the king side closed with g4, and black now chucks another pawn, which Magnus takes. He's up 2 pawns, but with all this pressure black's got, the computer thinks the position is equal. Rook g6 and g5 to keep the pawn, followed by h4 to secure it, bishop maneuvers to enter the action, and bishop takes. Magnus doesn't take, that would lose his queen. Instead he steps out of the line of fire, queen a7 angling to attack along this diagonal, queen up attacking the rooks, and check! King steps over and black spots a clever defence which wins Carlsen's queen. Rook g7 protecting that rook with his king, and after rook b8, check. Bishop d8 blocking the check, giving it up to pin the queen, and then after blocking it again with the other rook, Magnus gives a check with his bishop but eventually has to take the rook. A couple more moves, but the dust has settled and they repeat moves. Draw. Thanks for watching.